Hello once again from David DeLima, and the unfortunate news this week, of course, is that the 2026 census is going to include a new topic of sexual orientation and gender for people aged as young as 16 years. Now think about that for a minute. Whoever's running the handling of the census forms on census night, could be the parents, presumably. Are they going to ask their children what they'd like to record by way of sexual orientation? This should provoke outrage among those asked to complete the census forms. What on earth is going on? Isn't there enough gender confusion already without the government effectively confirming the queer agenda by raising this most concerning question? What business has government got asking that question in the first place? Think about it for a moment. Now, government uses census data to figure out where we may need hospitals or schools, and the census conceptually is probably a good idea. It's certainly there in the scripture, although we read that we should not engage in national self-reliance, which risks incurring divine chastisement. So we read in Exodus chapter 30 that people must make an offering when the people are counted. Hear these words in the book of Exodus. When you take a census of the Israelites to count them, each one must pay the Lord a ransom for his life at the time he is counted. Then no plague will come upon them when you number them. And the payment was half a shekel per person. While we're speaking about the cost of these matters, we recognise that the 2021 Australian census cost the taxpayer a whopping $600 million. Say that number slowly, 600 million. And what is the nominal cost of all the time that's required by the taxpayer to complete these forms? Well, if we suggest that there are 11 million households in Australia and at least 30 minutes typically nominally costed at perhaps $20, 20 times 11 million, well, there's another extra $220 million for the taxpayer to bear. Now, the Australian Taxation Office has got all of our income details and where we live, so that detail is not required. Medicare knows all about our health challenges and our addresses. What we're really seeing here is government overreach, and it's in particularly targeted to please the queer agenda or to advance the queer agenda. This is a real tragedy for our nation, that things have got this far. And I'm getting tired of government overreach, I've got to say. Think of the bank accounts being shut down because bank customers are not adequately warned about the requirement for them to satisfy the needs of the bank, to satisfy the needs of government. Security issues we get, but it's really going too far. There's really something wrong when we can't meet our banking obligations without heavy-handed action from banks on behalf of governments. And there's something wrong when we can't meet our taxation obligations without having to incur professional assistance. But what's really going wrong with our country is the way in which government is being used to advance agendas which are anti-family and anti-God. The hope for this nation is not to promote the queer agenda. And look, we love people who are struggling with questions of sexual identity, but we don't want to promote them effectively by requiring everyone in Australia over the age of 16 to ponder this census question. Well, what is to be done? We need to stop electing members of parliament who keep leading us down the garden path. We need to vote more intelligently. There will be an election between now and the next census, of course, and it could be an excellent time to clean up the federal parliament and the state parliaments. And secondly, we need to make sure that we call governments to account. Let's not just fuss and bother about this. Prayer is important, concern is important, but action is even more. Actions speak louder than words, as they say. So let's all do our part to raise concerns about this important issue. That's my prayer.